one. Okay.
I was just curious, you mentioned that a number of the, trying to understand the ELL score, how they, given that you had a number of kids that came in mid-year, how many, like percentage-wise or number-wise, how many started the year versus how many came in later?
The ELs?
I can't be quoted on this specifically, because I did this calculation a few months ago, but from memory it was about half,
About half.
yeah.
I don't know if it's important to share this, but my daughter transferred from a very different program as a 5th grader last year, having not had really any of this approach to math. And so all of her schooling up till coming to RVC had just been an entirely different mathematical framework. And so RVC did this fantastic job of, like Chris was saying, backfilling, but also teaching her grade level. And I think she rose, a grade level or 2 over the course of the year. And I know that she also has peers that transferred from similar programs that also were just really brand new to mathematics in this way. So I feel like it's not an EL category, but it's a special different category for older transfer students who came from really different programs.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. That's great. A lot of great information, and I'm really proud of what was accomplished in what was a year of doing a lot of things, and still we did amazing things with
Actually
our
taught some
students. We
kids
should be
too.
really proud. All right. So the local assessment indicators, initial discussion.
Right now there's actually not much to discuss. I just letting you know this is happening. I didn't really have the time to prepare all of the work that goes into this to present something to you, but all charter school districts, they have to present as part of what's called the California State Dashboard of results and how we're measured as a school. The state looks at multiple areas, and there is this point in November where we report on our local indicators, and these are things like access to curriculum. Do we have credentialed teachers? Do we have textbooks? Are we teaching to the standards? How engaged are our parents? And what kind of school climate do we have? And we have some early indicators on those things, but and all the data that we do here is a self-assessment, but it's a good look for us to have. Are we meeting the state priorities? And so at our November board meeting, we're going to discuss all those indicators in detail. We did it last year, if you remember. And we have to do it before November 16th.
So we just have to, sorry,
Yeah.
we just have to approve the indicators, or we have to approve where we think we stand on all the indicators
We have to approve where we think we stand on all the indicators.
by November 16th?
November 16th.
So are the indicators set? I mean, we
The
choose,
state chooses the indicators.
really, the local indicators? We don't choose the local indicators?
They are not chosen locally.
Were they similar to last year, do we know?
They're the same, they're the
The
same with some minor tweaks. So the district will be doing this soon, either this month. or
That's
next
too
month.
bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that as we have time, there's a whole bunch of stuff on our progress reports that measure things that are, I don't remember what we call them all, but there are key indicators of what it means to be an educated person. And those are all in the progress reports. And I hope that we have eventually develop some mechanism of reporting those out, at least to ourselves, so that we keep in mind, so that they are front of mind, they're part of our petition.
Yeah.
And we really need to be I didn't really know that the local indicators were not in any way local. They're just locally evaluated.
Yeah, there's, you know, in part, if you look at like school climate, they don't tell you how, you know, what questions to ask that is supposed to come from kids. So it's, you know, there are questions we ask our kids on
I know,
things at school.
but I just hope that we can, I mean, the progress reports that we have,
Yeah,
you know, they can be boiled down and quantitatively evaluated in terms of what we think an educated person looks like by the time they graduate from here.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of those are academic, but a bunch of them are not.
yes.
And the progress reports is simply the teacher's evaluation of where that kid is, which I think it's, of course, it's important in the parent-teacher conversation, but I think it's also important in the larger context.
Agreed.
So I hope we can
Use some of
find
that
a way to
data.
build a spreadsheet or something to report out on that stuff. Because I think it's just as important as this stuff. This is stuff, it's not more important, but it's also not less important.
Well, those are the things that we've said that are important to us.
Yeah.
Right, and so I agree, I mean, I think it'd be great if somehow the board could hear, I guess, you know, your self-evaluations on how you think.
Well, that's in the
that's
progress
right.
reports. I
Right,
mean,
but we don't see that though.
I
That's
know,
what
but
mean,
they,
like,
but they can be,
how do you summarize that,
they can
right.
be added up.
Right, right, I
And
mean, that would
displayed
be-
just like these are.
right.
And that's something we wanna do. It's not
in
easy to
progress.
measure,
Yeah.
but it's measurable.
Right.
Yeah, and we do measure it, and we
Yeah.
put
You
we
have
put a
it.
value down. I can't remember what the categories
Right.
are, but they're like,
You have
needs
them.
work, good, or, you know, there's 3 or 4
Right.
categories.
Good and darn good.
And those can be, those can be put up on charts just like
Yeah.
that.
Right,
Right. Well, let's hope that we put, you know, we don't put more time into this than it gives us in terms of value.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and this is really just reporting that it's coming, so I don't know if we need to spend too much more time on it. Any public comment?
Yeah, I put it on the agenda because I was on under a misapprehension
Okay.
of what it was.
So this was for you, Con.
All right, thank you. Okay, we will move on to our wellness policy.
Wellness policy, this is part good idea, part compliance. The good idea, part of this is just us looking at how we as a school take care of our kids and staff, as far as like health.
Mhm.
If you look at things like food, nutrition of food, and physical development. And so there's this policy, and the other part of this is that if we are to ever become part of the National School Lunch Program, which we're evaluating doing, we need to have a wellness policy adopted. So I took what was mandated and tried to also make it true as possible to who we are as a school within the framework of government requirements.
Mhm.
So it's
Great. Any questions at the board level on this?
I have some comments.
Mhm.
One thing that we had decided last year, and I think that we're all following through with it, is to not have birthday treats.
Mhm.
And I didn't see it. I was trying to read through it, skim through it all. I didn't see it in there, but I think that's worth
there
adding.
was something on there about birthday treats.
It
I
was
thought
there.
there was.
I like I
There's
said, I
something on
skimmed
there.
through it. I was short on
Because
time.
I saw
to even
something, I was like, wow, that's different when my kids were little.
Well, yeah, but, you know, it's not 25 cupcakes a year, right? So, and I think it's important to say, you know, we don't
Do
need
you
to.
do any kind of treats, like can they bring fruit or anything? or anything?
We just celebrate it in different ways.
Okay.
We don't make food be part of it.
Okay,
There's also such a concern about allergies. We have a lot of kids with very severe allergies, so it's just easier to not have to do that,
Yeah.
to have food and go, oh, this kid can't eat it, oh, do we have an alternative snack, and oh, is he gonna feel bad, and all that.
Like Miss Rebecca's class, they bring a plant. And,
Oh, that's cute.
yeah, and
Oh,
name
that's
the
a good
plant and
idea.
talk about the plant.
oh, that's cute.
In my class, we have a collection of rocks, and when it's the birthday person, when it's their birthday, they choose a rock out of it, and then we
Oh.
pass the rock around, and everybody gives them a wish or an appreciation.
Oh, that's
or-
great.
Yeah.
from Chris's pet rock collection.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, we just have different ways of celebrating. The other thing, a couple other things. One is, some of our classes do cooking projects, like we cook every Friday. We have a group of kids that cooks a snack. And I didn't see anything in there about
No.
that. I personally tell the kids that it can't be desserty, you know. We had chocolate covered strawberries last week, so I guess that's kinda, but you know, the minute you go with sugar, they go all sugar. They want nothing but sweet treats, which we've seen in some of the other classes. So I think that if we're gonna do this, we need to make sure that those kinds of projects are also nutritious. Like I always make them have fruits or vegetables or something nutritious in it. So I would kinda like to see that added. And then a couple of things that we just need to make sure we remind staff on is no food is rewards, which I don't think any of us are doing. And then fundraising, you know, it's very rare for us to have a bake sale, but according to this policy, we shouldn't be doing that. And then, it said recess should be at least 20 minutes a day. I think that's really low for us. We
Yeah.
do much higher than that. I don't know if we need to put that in. And then the last thing is no withholding recess from kids. And
I
think-
really appreciated that.
I appreciate that, and I also know that it's kind of tough, because there are times when a kid, you know, gets into a situation and we say, well, we need to talk that through during recess. You know, that's, how do we handle that and still let them have their fresh air and their
Yeah.
exercise and whatever. So I just think it's something we need to have a discussion about, like,
Yeah.
how do we do that to make sure that kids are getting the exercise they need and, you know, having their consequences or having their discussion or whatever. And then there was one more. On page 7, it says that kids should be allowed to bring water bottles. I think we should say encouraged to bring water bottles, because I know I really appreciate it when kids have it right there with them, don't have to be getting up to go get drinks of water, and
Yeah.
obviously
No, we
they need
don't,
the
yeah.
water.
And we don't really have one drinking fountain in the hallway.
Right, and nothing outside, so it's challenging. It's nice if kids have their water bottle with them. Not all the classrooms have sinks, so they can't always get water in the sink in the classroom either.
Great.
There it is, it's on my
Okay.
comments.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else at the board level? No? Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
What about sunscreen? Would that be under this policy? I mean, I don't know how you would even do that, but.
Sunscreen's a tricky one because in most senses it's counted as a medication.
Yeah,
And so technically schools have to have permission from parents to apply sunscreen to their child. And sunscreen has to be provided by that parent.
okay, what about like encouraging kids to wear hats if they have them? Is that,
Sun protection.
yeah, sun protection.
Great, thank you. Yes.
Does that plan also adhere to your after-school programs and aftercare?
Yeah, which may need some work.
I just saw them cooking some really scary things the other day. It's like, oh, that's really red.
All right.
The great thing is that aftercare does eat up the
The
leftover
leftovers, yeah.
fruits and
It's
vegetables
awesome.
and salad, which is great.
All that good earth food.
Yeah, all the leftover good lunches.
Another cool thing to see about the school lunch is that I remember at the start of school last year, the salads just got rotten every day, and none of the kids never ate it. And now the kids are just so used to having salad every day, they eat it. Most
They
of
used to
them.
never touch the pesto, and now we run out every time.
Really?
And now you're upset because there's no.
It's not good for me.
Okay. Well, thank you for working on this, and so we will take all those comments into consideration and bring a policy back at the next meeting for adoption. And just as a reminder, we can always modify policies later, so if we, once we get one in place, if we decide that we want to still make changes to it down the road, we can continue to do that. Okay, next item is our facilities use agreement approval. And this was an informational, a little bit of background for people who maybe wanted to know what what's been going on since we agreed on our approval, and this is in relation a lot of it to our residency form, which we had a little bit of conversation about in the question and answer time before the meeting. But do we want to have any more conversation?
Well, I
about
think,
that?
everything that I have to say is said in that write-up, so I think it's a good idea that, you know, I should have done it in the last meeting, that the board approve it and be clear what it is we're approving in terms of the residency form.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it on the agenda and put that write-up on there, because the district keeps sending emails as if we didn't sign an agreement.
Yes, yes. And we have been providing the forms as we're supposed to for the deadlines. you
Right,
know,
and that's,
so-
you know, it's coming up here in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Mhm. Okay, any more discussion about
Wait,
that?
what's coming up the next 4 weeks, I'm sorry?
We have to
Submitting
submit the proof of
all the
residency forms.
for this year.
So have we,
We've been collecting them from parents and then we'll submit them all at once to the district.
what the district is still saying, we need to use the one that we didn't approve?
Well, you know, Terry Lauer is sending emails, I don't know what the district's really doing. So, we responded back saying, as we said last time, we sent an email, please have your lawyer contact our lawyer, they negotiated this agreement.
Okay.
This is kind of a semi-personal comment. Last week I had to go to the DMV.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, to
you
get,
need less information for the DMV, even for the real ID
Yeah.
than you do for this.
so yeah, I had to get the real
Yeah, we
ID,
did
which,
that too.
you know, you have the choice between getting the real ID, which if you want to actually have a real ID
Yes.
going forward and use that for the
Yes.
board an airplane or
Mhm.
in some states boat. You have to go to the DMV and provide a couple your social security card and a bill, which could be a cell phone bill
That's
or
right,
anything which
any
is allowed
bills.
by the state.
And only one,
And then I have this ID.
yeah.
And then I'm just kind of perplexed by the fact that it's more difficult for a family to prove where they live for their kid to go to school than
Than
it
to
is
get
for
that.
me to basically have access to anything.
Right. No, I find it very ironic,
Well, there's actually state law about this, and most of the districts in Marin don't follow it.
right? Yeah, I wouldn't look at it.
Because it's, how is it different? It's more minimal?
Well, the state law says that, a parent can submit any of 7 different types of proof of residency, and this district and many other districts in this county don't provide that. They limit it to a smaller number.
Or multiple ones rather than just
Right.
one. Right. Okay, so here we are, that's kind of the explanation of where we are and
Okay,
the
but
process.
Can I ask
and-
another question? So that's one aspect that is sort of
At issue.
that issue. But there's also that whole pro rata share errors, because that's also impacts last year
Right,
as well as
so-
this year, that is still not in agreement. And
So Midge is not willing to sit down with me yet, for whatever reason, and go through these, you know. What happened is, the district made they made 2 significant mistakes in calculating the pro rata share last year. They counted for the gym, they counted the outdoor covered area,
Mhm.
which is like 1,700 square feet, which is clear from their own numbers. Somebody made a mistake and picked the number from the
Well, I
wrong
mean-
column.
I mean, you could see how that could happen.
Yeah, easily. And then in addition, they left off about 8 classrooms or 9 classrooms from Wade Thomas and Brookside in calculating the total amount of square feet, which is used to create a denominator.
Mhm.
It's in the math.
Yeah.
So those are clear errors they made. And then, of course, they also didn't include any square feet from the surplus property space, which they do maintain. They maintain it at a lower level, so
Mhm.
it's reasonable that they wouldn't count it all. But anyway, so that's been pointed out to them since last spring. And just recently I nudged Midge and I called her to talk to her about it, and she said she wouldn't talk to me on the phone. So I sent her an email and sent her 2 emails the same day, one of which the district had failed to pay us the money they're supposed to pay us on August 15th and September 15th. And
Which is basically our pupil, per pupil funding.
Yeah. That they get, you know, they get it from the state. And so the next day, she wrote back and said that they would make the transfer the next day. And then the other thing was this issue of the pro rata share, and she said, I can't remember the exact words, it's like I'm too busy to deal with this, or I'm not dealing with this, and eventually she will, but, you know, it's just unfortunate that she's
But
not
so in the
capable.
meantime,
She's
we're
not-
paying more.
Well, I haven't paid anything.
Have they billed us?
No, but in the agreement, they don't bill us, it's just in the agreement. But, you know, the agreement is ambiguous about. So my plan is to go ahead and pay them once the amount of money that they're owed us for the last 2 months clears, which should be this Friday.
So we've got.
I'll go ahead and pay them for, you know, the 2 months, and we'll just wait and, you know, I'm happy to wait until the litigation is finished in November, and then we'll know the exact square feet, and we'll deal with it all at once.
Okay.
And last year as well, you know, we just
Right.
basically just need to do okay. And when
Right.
she sent it an email in July when I first raised this to her the second time, that they would, you know, make the adjustments necessary,
Retroactively.
credit us back, so
Okay.
we'll just wait.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, they were charging us for garbage service, but we
Right.
actually contract our own garbage
Yeah, that's
service.
utilities, and the utilities, you know, I mean, I haven't paid the utility bills, and she hasn't brought it up again, so.
Okay.
Okay, any public comment on this item?
I just have a question.
Mhm.
Were they going to claim that the space at the other campus was ours and then also charge us for that, even if we didn't use it?
Well, I think that that's not a part of the calculation right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think what, you know, if we don't use it, we won't